Hello everyone and welcome back. This is going to be a breakdown of the first story part in Mortal Kombat 2011. So Mortal Kombat 2011 is a soft reboot that NetherRealm Games and Warner Bros. Studios had decided to do for their 9th installment after their previous 8 games. Their last installment, Mortal Kombat Armageddon, was a segue that they decided to use for the overall story into the 9th game. In this reboot, we see Raiden, played by Richard Epcar, try to stop Shao Kahn, played by Bob Carter, from becoming a godlike being. Unfortunately, he failed. So as a way to try to counter what Shao Kahn has done, Raiden decided to cast a spell that would send all memories of the previous 8 installments back into his past self from the first arcade game in the first Mortal Kombat, in order to create a new branch or a new timeline or a new period or age in which the events that the previous 8 games and side stories had collected were now being redone. The visions were sent back in time past all the 8 games that we've seen to Raiden from the first Mortal Kombat arcade game. Here, where the final 10th tournament takes place and would decide Earthrealm's fate. The entirety of this arcade game, of the original arcade game, is played in a series of character chapters in which you play characters such as Johnny Cage, played by Jeff Pilson, Sonya Blade, Donna Lynn Barron, Scorpion, Patrick Seitz, Cyrax, Rashawn Orange, and Liu Kang, played by Tom Choi. While some things are different in terms of the original timeline, a majority of the arcade game remains the same. The only real difference is that more story is added, such as the Cyber Lin Kuei initiative is activated, as we see through Cyrax's story. Visions from the future come back to Raiden, since that didn't happen in the original game, and Raiden trying to convince Scorpion to not kill Bi-Han for murdering his entire family and tribe. Bi-Han, by the way, is played by Jamison Price in this game. So overall, I thought this first part of the Mortal Kombat story was well thought out. It was nice to see more context added to the original arcade game in terms of story. How the original arcade game happened or played out was you had to play as 7 different characters, such as Raiden, Liu Kang, Sonya Blade, Kano, Johnny Cage, Scorpion, and Sub-Zero. And each of them had their own objectives and storylines throughout the entirety of the first game. And in order to understand that story, you had to play each of those characters' tournament to find out what their starting story was and what their ending story was. You would then have to take all that information and sort of piece it together yourself. So, what I like about the reboot is that they take those main aspects and concepts from the first arcade game, add it into its own original story that encompasses the entirety of the game, while also adding in other important elements such as the Cyber Initiative and more backstory in terms of the relationship between Scorpion and Sub-Zero. The major change that they did make, though, is that in the original game, Sub-Zero was sent or hired to kill Shang Tsung. In the game, they changed that to where Shang Tsung actually hires the Lin Kuei and Sub-Zero to go kill Earthrealmers instead. So that was a nice, brief, subtle change. The other thing I liked about this is they took some concepts or took some ideas from other medias of Mortal Kombat and added it into this new story. For example, Katana is not in the original arcade game. However, they decided to take hers and Liu Kang's love story from the original first live-action movie and put it in the game. aka when they fought each other for she was trying to eliminate him or kill him. And He fought back, won, and spared her life. In the movie, she was never going to kill him, so they changed that a little, but it was still a cool concept to see how they added and adapted that storyline into the game and the game story, as well as in their relationship for the now canon timeline. So, in short, I thought this retelling of the first arcade game was well thought out and it was well done. I will say the only issue I had with it was the pacing. It felt very fast-paced, but you could also argue that it was fast-paced since the arcade game didn't really have much storyline going on. So it's kind of expected that it was fast-paced when they had to add stuff in order to fill in what a lot of the original arcade game left blank. That's not to crap on the original arcade game. The original arcade game was well thought out and well produced. But in terms of a storyline, I like how they added more to it, and I also can sort of let it slip by a bit that it was fast-paced. The only parts of it that I thought needed more that felt too fast were Sonya Blade and Cyrex's story. They introduced new concepts and new ideas through their stories, but they were so short-lived that we didn't actually get more of a fleshed out tone for the story. That being said, I do think they come back around to add more to that, or more to those sections of those chapters later on in the overall story of the game. However, we're talking about the original, we're making an original comparison from the arcade to the reboot. And in that case, with adding in more concepts, I thought it was a good idea. But they should have added more or should have made it longer for Sonya Blade's and Cyrex's chapters because they were very short. So with that being said, the final score that I would give for this first part of the story would be an 8.5 out of 10, mainly because of the pacing of the story. I felt it could have been better. The story itself had great concept, a good start to a reboot, good character chapters, but it was short-lived. Next week, we will be starting the second story of the reboot, which covers the second arcade game. The cool thing about this is that Mortal Kombat 2011 covers the first 3 arcade games in a cool reboot style. They changed several things, and we'll notice that they changed several things later on. But for now, we are going to stick with the first rebooted arcade game, and that is an 8.5 out of 10. So that being said, next week we will start on the chapters that cover the second arcade game. And until then, I am your host of the night. I hope you all have a blessed week and take care. Bye.